Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the Get Into the Bag podcast. I go by Polo Show. And today I got a special guest with me.
Hi, YamaGucci.
YamaGucci is part of the local scene here. And we're just gonna, just have a conversation, talk hip hop, talk music, talk entrepreneurship. And see where that goes. So thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I guess tell us what you do.
I'm a photographer. I specialize in portraits, creative concepts, events, and most recently like couples. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess how did you get into this?
So 5 years ago, I actually did like modeling. And then I always kind of like wondered why I did it. It never really felt super purposeful to me. And then some time passed, and a really good friend of mine, her boyfriend is a photographer as well. And so he was teaching her how to do photography, and then he just taught me how to use a camera. I have some really supportive friends around me who are also phenomenal photographers, just from meeting from modeling. Right. And they kind of just like helped me lead the way. And then to get into this scene, I met WH or Jason. So he just kind of helped me immerse myself into this community.
Right. And so it was never, I guess like before 5 years ago, you had never really had an inclination for photography?
Not at all. I always liked like documenting pictures. I feel like that's always something my mom loved to do. Like we have so many photo albums at home, and I don't know, I think it's just like a very sentimental part of me. So I always liked taking pictures, but I never thought of like doing it as like a job or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And would you say like you're passionate about photography?
Absolutely. It's made me look at life or like just the world in a completely different way. Like I remember right after learning how to use a camera, I would walk around even in like the grocery store and I'm like, that's cool. That's cool. I feel like I'm seeing like different colors, like colors feel like they're more vibrant to me. And I guess that's part of like the editing process is like, I get to make that my own. I get to make it like my own world. So it feels pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess just getting into the technical parts of the camera. So what camera did you start with?
I started with, I don't even know the name. It was a really old Canon. I got it off of Facebook Market. Came with like 3 lenses. I don't even remember. And then I want to say a month after that, I invested in a little bit of a better one. It was also a Canon. I think it was the 1300D, the EOS one, EOS. And then I went to Sony A6300, and then I went to Nikon, the D750, and then now I'm back to Sony with the A6400. So I've dabbled with all of them.
Do you think Sony's the best?
That's a good question. I actually recently posted a reel that I really like the Canon and the Nikons for photography. And I think it gives a really good foundation for colors already. So if you're starting out, I've only been doing it for a year. So when I was just starting out and like learning how to color grade, I found those ones were the better ones. But now that I'm trying new things with it, I feel more comfortable with editing. Sony seems a lot crisper. And then especially I know in a videography aspect for my peers around me, they like the Sonys. And then in events, definitely the Sonys for like a lower light setting for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And what program are you using to edit?
I edit on Lightroom on my phone.
Damn, that's fire.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So I guess with your first camera that you got, that you had just the 3 lenses, like what kind of photography were you doing with that? And like what made you be like, all right, I need to get a better camera because I need to do this with it?
Yeah. My first intention with it was boudoir because that was the type of modeling that I was doing. That's the type of mentorship that I did with my good friend Vanessa, Photos by Vanessa. So she does beautiful boudoir work. And so I kind of wanted to lead into that area because I also knew a bunch of models. So I thought that those connections could bring me somewhere in that photography sense. But I think the first artist that I took pictures of was Black Star. And so I did just some like promo pictures of him, and that was really fun. And then the first event that I did was Sinzier's, it was like one of her it was a watching party for one of her videos.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like it was just one of those things where you meet the right people. And music has always been huge in my life. I actually used to be a musician. So
Okay.
I think it's really cool that I get to like incorporate both of those worlds for myself.
What kind of music did you make?
It's a good question. Very sad girl stuff. Like I listen to a lot of like R&B, obviously a lot of hip hop as well, but primarily R&B. So kind of that stuff. I am not releasing my name for what I release that under. Nobody gets to hear that, but
cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's interesting. So why are you still like, is music still a part of your journey?
I mean, I feel like this is a really beautiful way that I get to have music in my life because I feel like when I was younger, I used to love the spotlight. And now it's cool being behind the scenes and I like elevating other people. I find it's much better. Like, I feel like a lot of other people to help other people rather than myself. You get imposter syndrome and all of that. So if I can just be on the sidelines helping and representing my friends and all of that, it feels a little bit better. But I still love music. I did backup vocals for Malika Haley at Sled Island.
Right, I've seen that.
I like doing backup vocals, but for the most part, you can find me at karaoke bars, but that's really it. Yeah.
No, it's really cool. And so I guess that comes full circle. Something I was going to ask you about is why music? You know, I guess like with the camera, there's so many lanes you can go into, and you've just kind of like dabbled into that. You know, your first couple connections with the camera were music related.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, I feel like you're kind of proficient enough where you have like, you can choose whatever lane. It's not, I guess, you know, you started in music, but it's like you could do whatever you want with the camera now. Why music?
So I have this thing called synesthesia where, do you know what that is?
No.
Okay. So synesthesia, the best way to explain it is like, if you think of your 5 senses in your brain and they all have a chord.
Yeah.
Sometimes my chords get mixed. So when I hear music, I actually see color. And I think that's a really cool part of representing artists is when I do an album cover or they want to do some promo pics for themselves, I like to listen to their music because I want to represent you the way that who you are, authentic to your music. So there's a lot of like thought process when I think of like creative concepts or anything that I do for album covers because of that. I remember being in choir class when I was in high school and I would look at my teacher. I'm like, the song is really orange. And he was like, what? And then like, I never understood that. And I don't know when I learned the word synesthesia or when I learned about it, but I understood that that's kind of what a gift that I have. And so I really like it all just, like you said, it comes full circle with music and photography, I guess. It's just something that it's a big area in my life that I like to focus on, I guess.
Since you mentioned colors, like, I definitely follow your work and you definitely have like a style, you know, and it's definitely very about the colors and making, you know, the colors shine. Can you speak on that? Like,
yeah,
how did you develop that and why?
I mean, I started off with Vanessa's presets. And then from there, I don't know, I just learned a little bit more about Lightroom and how to color grade. Like I understood like temperature and so like the warm versus cold and then the pink versus green. And I understood how to do that. But I didn't know that you could actually go in and like tamper with each color and like the hues of all of them. So I'm trying to exercise that a little bit more where I get to see the colors that I want to see, if that makes sense. But I think in regards to hip hop, it's always been a type of aesthetic that I really like. Like I can remember, I think the first hip hop CD that I ever had was the Get Rich or Die Trying. And it's just like, it's just grungy and it's dark. And I feel like you've noticed, like I have a lot of like dark themes. Like I love the beautiful, like feminine side of it, even when it comes to masculine. Like I love doing like flowers with masculines and stuff like that. But I like to pertain the photography more, of course, my style, but definitely geared towards like the artist or the person that I'm shooting.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And so I guess just asking you this because you're someone that's, you know, in the scene. What is your overall perception or perspective on the hip hop scene here in Calgary?
I mean, I've only been in it for a year, really.
That's enough.
It's enough.
Yeah.
I've heard that it was actually a lot more lively back in the day. That's just kind of what I've heard from my peers.
Mm.
But I think we have really great musicians here.
Yeah.
Like as much, I think we lack support, which is heart-wrenching because like you see how much time and effort that everybody puts into this stuff. But I try as much as I can. Like I try to listen to everybody. But I think we have really phenomenal musicians in the city. I mean, I mainly only listen to the hip hop and R&B artists, but as many shows as I can go to, you can see how much talent is coming from here, and it's good. I personally really like it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. There's a lot of talent coming from here.
But there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
But the thing is like I feel like it shouldn't be seen as competition. Like, yes, it is competition. That's inevitable, but we can support each other in the ways that you want to be supported. Like listen to other people's stuff. And like even the way that you approached me like a couple months ago when you dropped your stuff, you were like, I'd appreciate it if you listen to this. 100% I'll listen to it. But we have to learn how to ask for help and support.
Yeah. I feel like it's hard in hip hop because it's all about, like you said, it's more about the competitive nature of it, and everyone
100%.
is on their own island. Like, I'm going to make this work.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's the more we can be a community, the more we can benefit from what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for touching on that.
Of course.
So I guess just some games. So, would you say you're an entrepreneur?
I would say so now.
Yeah.
I definitely never really thought of myself as that. I mean, my primary job is a massage therapist. So in that kind of sense, I've always been an entrepreneur, but I never really looked at myself as that. I just kind of looked at myself as somebody who has a hobby and I get to monetize off of it sometimes. But yeah, I definitely look at myself as an entrepreneur now.
Yeah. Like, cause like the photography thing is like, it's a business now.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. It's a full-time job for me now.
Cool.
Yeah.
So like what advice would you give to someone like, you know what I mean? Like that's specifically like, yo, I want to get a camera and I specifically want to get into the, you know, the hip hop scene in my local community and just infiltrate, you know what I mean? And be that person. Like, so what would you say to them? Like what camera, like who do you need to talk to? Like, yeah.
So I feel like if you want to get a camera, if you have the funds, then again, I would recommend either Canon or Nikon just because of that foundation, the foundation colors. It gives a little bit more to work off of rather than just like, it kind of feels like a coloring book with Sony where you have to like create your own colors.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but I would recommend Canon or Nikon. If you don't have the funds for it, ask for help. If you know some photographers in the city, 9 times out of 10, like we have been perfecting our craft for X amount of years and they've probably built up a good collection of cameras if they haven't traded them in. That's personally actually what I do. I don't even own like a real camera. The last camera that I owned was the Canons at the very beginning of my journey. So for now, until I can afford one, I've been using my peers and like shout out Profit and WH for letting me lend and Vanessa for letting me use their cameras. And then if you want to come into the hip hop community, the biggest thing you can do is come support. Like we have tons of shows in the city. And that's something I had no idea that we had. So when I started going to them and the frequency of them, and then I started getting booked, and it's a lot of work, but that is the best way to market yourself. Just go take pictures, find out what everybody's name is, go introduce yourself, and then tag them so that they can see your work. The biggest thing that I've had a couple people come up to me and they're like, it seems like you came out of nowhere. And it's just, nobody's going to see your work if you don't put it out. You have to start somewhere. So you just create. That's my biggest advice, is just to do what you want to do. Make sure you're having fun. But yeah, you can't, I guess that's with any career though. Like you want to have fun. You want to love what you do. So if it's something that you do love and you want to like try out, then just go do it. Like don't expect anything big or anything like that, but just go do your craft. That's it.
Fire.
Thanks.
And I guess my last question for you would be, I guess to artists, we got some artists that follow this podcast and just some game you can give to them. So you've definitely worked with a lot of artists on, you know, their creative, visuals for their rollouts and whatnot. Like, what advice would you just give to an artist, you know, I work with a lot of artists just, you know, just whether it's just recording their first song or whatever. And, you know, they're not even, I'll say like, you need to get a cover art for that. And they're not even thinking about that. They're like, oh, what? Oh, right. I need to, you know, so I don't know what kind of game can you give to someone on that level?
Representation matters. Like if you think about it, like even with a book, when you look at a book, like people always say, don't judge a book by its cover, but you're going to, it's inevitable.
100%.
We are visual people. Like you can walk into a room and make, I forget what the statistic is, but you can make 7 judgments based off you just walking into one room. So the first thing that they're going to see on Spotify or wherever you're streaming is your visual. So that's why I love to represent people the way that they like to be represented. I think it matters. I think a lot of people don't think that it matters as much. Again, it's also investing in yourselves. Like not a lot of photographers do trade for prints. But budget that. Like I know how the budgeting works when you're writing your grants. Take into account your cover art, your promos, because I mean, it gets a little redundant if you're using the same pictures. But if you do that, the same like 5 set, people are going to see you. Right. So get people ingrained in your mind, like visually, and then it'll, in my opinion, it kind of piques some interest. Like, okay, like that's a cool picture. Like, what's the vibe of this? Like, what do I see or what do I hear when I see this picture? And like, does that add up to the song?
Yeah. And people want that. Yeah, because it's like as good as the music is, like all of my favorite albums, I love the cover art just as much as I love the album.
Exactly.
You know, like,
I agree. Yeah. 100%.
So, yeah. That's a big part of it. So your advice basically to artists is like, don't be cheap.
For lack of a better term.
go get those visuals.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even like a don't be cheap thing. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm a services kind of girl. I'm Filipino, so I love bartering. So if there's like a service that you can provide, then like do it that way. But there's always going to be a way.
Yeah. No, that's good game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's everything I had for you. I guess one thing I'd like to end it on, just because it is a hip hop podcast, is if you can just like let us know your top 5, whether it's hip hop artists or rappers.
Oh God.
Like
I'm going to give you my top 5 now that I'm listening to right now, because to think of just like a top 5 is really hard for me.
It always is.
Yeah.
Like you do know it though. Like when you take your time and think about it, you're like, nah.
I'm sure I will. I'll text you like next like Friday and I'll be like, these are my 5. But right now, the artists that there's a lot of good music out right now. But even just like albums in general, I really love the Meek Mill and Rick Ross one. Fire. That is on like when I'm at the gym. Yeah. And same with Offset's new one.
Yep.
Absolutely fire. I was not expecting that from him. I've also been listening to NSG. They're like a British group.
Okay.
It's a little more Afrobeaty, but it's definitely still rap.
Yeah.
I like stuff that you can dance to. So if I can dance to it, then I love it.
Vibes.
That probably ties into J Hus. I love his recent album as well. Fire.
That is a good album.
And then
do you think it's better than his previous album or his previous albums? This is his 3rd album now.
You're right. But it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while since he's released. So I think in the market that it's in now, yes.
It's just good. People just want it. Yeah,
100%. Like you put on like Militarian, I'm dancing. I'm dancing in my car, 100%.
That is a banger. Yeah.
And then the 5th, oh God. The last one's always the hardest. Oh my God. I would have to say, just for the hustle, Drake. The hustle is wild. And like,
gotta respect it.
100%. And then when you look at the album covers, like you can see them immediately in your head. The way that he markets them, like you could say any Drake album and I'd be like, oh, I know exactly what that looks like. I guess same with J. Cole too. But I would have to say Drake. I've been bumping his stuff pretty consistently.
Over a decade in.
Yeah, literally. Exactly.
That's the guy. But yeah. Thank you for that, Yama.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, that's been Getting to the Bag, episode 7, season 4. I go by Polo Show. You can find me on all social media platforms at Polo Show YYC. You can find my music on all streaming platforms at Polo Show. I'll let you plug your stuff.
Oh, yeah, I'm YamaGucci again. You can follow me at YamaGucci. You can find 2 accounts, but my main one is YamaGucci with 4 C's now.
4 C's.
4 C's.
Yo, and one thing I want to say is, Yama, you did the photo, or a lot of the photos I have for like my artist representation
I know,
on
yeah.
Spotify is done by you. And it's like, that's some of my best, like,
Aw.
like, yeah, that's some of the best photos of me.
Well, I'm glad. I'm really happy that you like them.
I vouch for your work.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. Peace out.
Sick.
Yeah.
Good job.
That was good.
Yeah, it was good.